In this video, we're going to see how to create a conversational agent that allows us to capture leads when we're not during working hours. To do this, we're going to start with the demonstration. Here, basically, we're going to say hello. Hi. The chat is directly connected to a comprehensive-to-chat flow, which in turn is seamlessly connected to an advanced chatbot within 8N. So, as you can see here, it thanks the user for connecting, informs them that we're not within working hours, apologizes, and starts to say that in order to contact them later, it needs to collect some information. So that's the first thing it does. Let's say we agree to proceed, and it will automatically start asking us for information. Okay, first it asks me for my name. Let's put Peter here. Last name is Jones. Here it asks me for the company name. Let's put it here, Business Incorporated. Then it is going to ask me for the email address, specifically Peter@, which is the one I will be using for this particular demonstration. In the background, we have Hubspot, which is where we're going to capture the lead. And lastly, it asks me for the phone number. Let's put in any number. What is it going to do automatically? It's going to ask me for confirmation. Thanks for entering the phone number to confirm it's correct. We say yes. And after it completely processes all of the information, it then thanks you, and here in the background we will clearly see that it's going to meticulously create the new contact. When we go over here to Hubspot, let's go back to Hubspot. And we can see here it has created Peter Jones for me. As you can see here, it has created Peter Jones for me. Something very important to keep in mind is that when we open Peter Jones here, in the configuration we have to do in Hubspot, we always have to associate a contact with something. In this case, we have it associated with another contact. I created a contact called WhatsApp Leads, and that's the contact I use to associate all the contacts that come in through WhatsApp. So, as you can see, it's a conversational chat that basically will interact with the client as if it were a real person. It asks for information, and it can even include data validations or add the fields you need and feed them directly into Hubspot. To enable the agent, first we have to do several things in Hubspot. We're going to first of all, we create a contact. As I was saying, it's necessary to create a base contact to which we will link all the contacts we create from the WhatsApp agent. If we go here to the contacts code, in this case to the WhatsApp leads we created, it has a field here that we mentioned in Actions, View Properties. It's called the Record ID. Here we can see the ID. This record ID is information we need to copy and keep stored because we'll need it later. After creating this, we need to go here to Settings, and within Integrations there's a section called Private Apps. Private Apps is basically what will allow us to effectively utilize the Hubspot API in order to seamlessly feed contact information through various API calls. This functionality is crucial for integrating and managing data efficiently within our systems. So basically, you come here and create a private app, follow some very basic steps, and in the end, you'll have an application like the one we have here, along with an access token. After creating it, if we look at the app's details, let's go here. If I go to create a new one, it will ask me for some information, the logo, and here are the scopes. The scopes always have to include contact. this contact read, contact write, and this one too. Those are the scopes it needs to have so that the API allows you to create contacts. If we go into this one to chat leads, let's edit the app, check the scopes, and it has those scopes we mentioned. So this is the one we're going to use for our use case that we're looking at. So basically, it's important to create this private app. Now, after this, what we're going to create, it's very important to know the Hubspot API. This does require, well, some knowledge of Hubspot, although we'll share the template itself with you, which already has the URLs and data prepared, but it's important for you to know it in case you need to integrate other functionalities. The Hubspot API has, as I mentioned, basically you go to the link and here is the Contacts API. Here we have a big example about the contacts topic. As you can see, we have all the information. Here are the data we're going to process. It's very important to take these fields by exploring in the Hubspot app using the internal name of the application. And here we have the value we're going to associate it with and the association ID. As I was saying, now we're going to associate it with a contact. This code is part of the association codes. In this case, we're going to use 441E, which means we're going to create a contact associated with another contact. And here in this, the to field, we're going to provide the ID of the contact we want to associate. If you remember, we created a WhatsApp leads contact, and this is the ID we're going to put here. So, after understanding this part of the API, let's move on to the N8N template. This N8N template basically starts with a webhook. Remember that for testing we use the test option, and for production we use this data. Here, I basically created this webhook, and I'm saying it's very important that it responds with a response node, respond to webhook. This makes the API receive a request, process it, and return it. Here, we give it a name so that the name appears here in the URL, and then we go into the AI contact. We add the language model. In this case, I'm going to use OpenAI. And here in the agent, we select Tools Agent, and we provide it with the message parameters. Basically, this webhook is going to receive. Now we're going to see how we catch it from to chat. Basically, it's going to receive, well, let's look at it right here. It's going to receive the structure we have here. It's the last user message and the from number, in case we need the phone number of the person who's calling. So here, the message from the agent, the prompt that we're going to send to the model, will be taken from the last user message, which is what to chat will provide. And here we have a system prompt, which basically tells the agent how it should behave. It tells it that it is an agent specialized in ensuring the quality of contact data, especially that it will operate outside of business hours and, therefore, its main job is to collect information and politely inform the user or customer that they cannot be assisted at the moment, that we need their contact information in order to help the customer service team reach out to them later. So here is that entire prompt. You can enrich it however you like. And here we have this very important window buffer. This component is critical, as it allows the chatbot to remember the sequence of conversations it has had with the user. Remember that it is asking message by message, so it's important for it to have memory so that it can complete the conversation. This part is an HTTP request object where we are going to use the Contacts API that we saw earlier, which is the one from Hubspot. Here, it's very important to provide a description to the tool, because this is what the agent will use to decide which tool to use. In this case, it's only going to be one, but if we had several tools, let's say one for creating, or if you have a service to check the status of an order or something else, then in that case, you would put that description here. You enter the URL, and you tell it to include the headers. Here in the headers, it's important we're going to provide that we're going to use the fields below and the authorization. We're going to select this one, which is provided value, and we enter the API value, which is the API value here that we get. Remember, in private apps, when we click here on View Access Token, that's the one we put in that section. Now down here in the body, we say that we're going to specify a JSON. This JSON basically has the structure that's copied here from the API documentation and obviously filled in with this data. What do we have here? We have an association block where we tell it that the association is 449. Remember that 449 is contact to contact. After that, we tell it which contact. Remember that this is the ID of the WhatsApp contact we have in Hubspot, and here we start providing the data. We have a first name, last name, and company, email, mobile phone, and HS WhatsApp phone number, which are two fields that Hubspot has. One is for the mobile phone and the other is for WhatsApp. Let's assume here that it's 000. Now, this part is important. Within keys, we put the placeholder, meaning the name, the variable that we will replace later. In this case, we put first name, last name, company, email, phone number. And here below, very importantly, is where we tell the agent what each of these fields is. We tell it that first name is customer first name, which is of type string. Last name is customer last name, which is of type string. Company, these are small prompts that will tell the agent how to ask for each of those values and what to do with them. Here we are going to add validations to make sure that it's a contact email, to validate, or to check that only numbers are allowed. In this case, it's a phone number for calls or for WhatsApp. If you remember, since we told it that it was a phone number, when it detected a number that seemed odd, it confirmed with me if it was the correct number. In the same way, I could add a validation here in the prompt to tell it that the email has to be correct so that it can identify if the email is not correct, and with this, the agent would work accordingly. And here we have the response, which is basically the first item that the agent returns. Very important, after doing all this, is to activate the N8N agent so that it becomes available. Once it's activated, we use this production link. Now let's go to chat, where we start with a flow. That flow starts with the number you need. Here we basically have the business hours filter so that, remember, this agent will be activated when we're outside of business hours. Here, an introductory message is placed where the user is kindly informed, which is the one that appeared earlier. They are informed that it is not business hours, and a summary of the business hours is provided. And after this, we use an HTTP request command where we will provide the following. Here, in this link, we're going to put what we had here, which is this webhook link, this URL. This production URL is the one that goes in this section. In the body, we put this data, and with that, it should work. This doesn't have headers because we didn't add any kind of security to the service. Basically, with the response has. And it's very important here, after generating the response, if we go here, this generates the data in an output of type message. So this agent data is going to return some data, a JSON structure that will have a field called message. We're going to associate that message field here in a variable, and we're going to do a test here. We do a test here. We put here hello, and let's put any number here just to send. We execute the endpoint. We see that it gives me an output. This output, I come here and set it as output. And with this button, I add the message variable. I set it as message, and this message is the one that I'm going to add in a message and wait for reply component. So here I'm simply going to give it this custom field called message, which we have available here. And we make a loop. Basically, it finishes, sends the message, and then goes back and starts again. Because here, remember that we're always providing the last message sent by the user. So this loop is what's going to handle the process of capturing the lead. So as you can see, this flow also starts working, and as a result, we have a process that captures a lead when the business is outside of its working hours. To recap, the steps are simple. First, in Hubspot, you create a contact to which the leads will be associated. Then you generate a private app by going into Settings, Integration, Private Apps, you create it, and with the API that's generated here, I'm going to use it inside N8N. I create a webhook, an agent ID, and add a chat model. This agent has a prompt that identifies it and tells it that it will operate as an agent that captures data outside of business hours. A window buffer memory is added to it, and all the data is set in the HTTP request. In the description, the agent will use it to choose the tool. The contact management URL is selected, the parameters of the private app are provided for the connection, and here in the body we provide the JSON. Remember that variables are placed inside curly braces so that the chatbot knows, the agent knows what needs to be replaced. We set 449 so that the agent, the contact, is associated with another contact. And here we put the ID of the contact that we created in our Hubspot database to link the leads that come from WhatsApp. For each of the variables we put here, we give it the same name, meaning first name goes with first name, and here we add a description and the type, and we did this for each of the variables. Then here we create this loop where we receive the user, detect whether we are within working hours or not, and if we are not within working hours, we inform them and call the endpoint we already have in N8N in a loop. We call the endpoint, show the user's response, wait for their reply, and then again we call the endpoint. So with this, you can now have your own agent. Thank you very much.